Writing on the wall.
Ding, 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 ding. There's writing on the wall. Ding, 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 ding.
It says you don't belong, you're headed for a fall. Can't change a thing at all. The writing's on the wall. Yeah, hello everybody. Welcome back to the ThyGap podcast once again. Oh, it feels so good. It feels so great to be back with you again. My name is Bogus Brut, the humble host of this podcast. And with me is my co-host, the opposite of humility.
Yeah, though this is being brute. Wow. Once again, wow.
Wappening, being brute. What's going on with you, my friends?
Bogus, let me be very excitement in this.
Yes, tell me, please.
Episode number 20
Oh, yes, it is 20.
in the year 2020.
Oh my God, round numbers.
Going by how the year went, it is a sure shot disastrous episode.
This one you say?
Yeah, because it is also 20.
Oh, that sounds like you're writing that on the wall there.
Absolutely. Scribbling also.
Yeah.
It should be scribbling on the wall actually, because if anybody is writing anything on a wall, he's definitely in a hurry, right? So he's basically like, he must be scribbling it fast and running away.
I know.
Because it's vandalism, right? Writing on the wall is like vandalism.
Bro, I could not agree more with you on this, because take a look at this wall next to us, and what do you see written and scribbled on it? I see our email is mindthygap@gmail.com.
Whoa, yeah, I couldn't make out that handwriting.
Yeah.
And hey, check this out. Instagram @_ThyGap.
Wow. And Twitter, it says here, it's @ThyGap.
@ThyGap.
Oh my God.
And what's is written in the bottom? Facebook.
Yeah, but who cares about that anyways?
ThyGap it is. Okay, yeah, but
Yeah,
I don't think that's written by the same guy.
Yeah, but that means that our listeners, our dearest, favorite listeners,
Yeah.
can actually get in touch with us and let us know anything,
Absolutely anything.
Just say hi for starters. How's
Exactly.
that?
You can say hi,
It's free.
hello, different ways of greetings
Yeah.
in your own language also, because hey, we are in about 150 countries, man.
Yeah, actually.
150 countries.
That's
That's a lot of countries.
With great number of countries comes great
Number of languages.
desire for emails
True that.
and
True
communication.
that. Absolutely. I completely fourth you.
Quite an interesting topic we've picked today for ourselves, bro. Would you say?
Yeah, I think we became a little overconfident, but hey, that's how we are.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you are. I kind of just tag along. And if it works out well, I'm there to share the credit. If it doesn't work out well, I know who to blame. It's a system that works for me.
Correct, but I want to just make one small change in the system. Bogus, never openly tell my strengths in the podcast.
That's not your strength.
That is my strength.
You honestly think I would compliment you in this podcast? Why would you?
Because that is your weakness. Your weakness is you can't stop yourself but to appreciate my strengths.
Yeah, we have 19 episodes of evidence behind us.
And we have future
To the contrary.
700 episodes of evidence where you make that mistake again and again.
Yeah, you say 700, but that number seems small for a ThyGap podcast and marathon undertaking that we have.
No, we have a lot more evidences, but 700 episodes of evidence is enough, I feel. That's enough to make a point.
Yeah. It's good enough for what do they call those? Fast quotes?
Fast quotes, yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to the topic again, it's quite curious or interesting to even begin to describe this, because this is another thing that I have not heard anyone else talk about, which is of course why people come to the ThyGap podcast.
Exactly, because we talk stuff that nobody else bothers to even
Yeah, it doesn't even
entertain.
register for them.
Yeah. It's like water under the bridge.
Yeah.
But writing on the wall, the topic of today's episode, genuinely, even before we went deep into it, the very first look of when I first heard that this was the concept, kind of really kind of excited me because, it so happens you don't know something.
Right.
And then you get to know something new and you start seeing it everywhere.
And you also remember how you've been seeing it all your life.
It's like a blast from the past.
Yeah. So when you came across this phrase now as the topic for the podcast, did it ring any bells from your past? Like, did it connect you to something that I've kind of already...
I mean, a lot of emotional stuff, to be honest. Very personal stuff.
Let's not go there at all.
No, now that you asked the question, Bogus,
okay.
I definitely want to give a couple of examples which kind of directly relate to the phrase, right? In my childhood especially, right? Whenever I used to watch a cricket match in the DD channel, Ravi Shastri always kept saying, the writing was always on the wall with those kind of shots. It was obvious that, the batsman would get out. And I always thought like, what the hell he means by, maybe he's just posh English. That's a way of saying, you could see it coming types.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I really never bothered about trying to find out what it actually means.
But that's not the wrong inference that you took from that. It means that. What
came from Ravi Shastri, so it's hard to believe that.
That is where you kind of ruined this episode right off the start. It went downhill.
When anything comes from Ravi Shastri, you can't really take it seriously. You know what I'm saying? And Lakshman Shivaramakrishnan. These two guys, I don't take anything seriously.
Right, does he also say writing on the wall?
No, but anything he generally says in the context of cricket, mostly, I don't take him seriously. Because every single thing he says, the exact opposite happens in the actual match. I remember he told that Dravid would never think of stepping out of the crease to loft the ball over long off or whatever, because Dravid is that kind of a player. And it's a very smart move by the captain to put like a mid-off and a mid-on or whatever. And the next ball, Dravid comes out of the crease, like whoops the ball like over the mid-off. And Lakshman Shivaramakrishnan is like, yeah, that happened. So yeah, I digress.
So many gems. But yeah, the writing on the wall is a social phenomenon, if I can call it that I've personally always found fascinating. From, I think, my adolescent years, when I started reading a little bit of history, and I came across this term and the context in which it was used. And let's first of all look into the meaning of it.
Okay.
Like our own meaning. You already gave your meaning, which is not wrong. Unfortunately, it came from Ravi Shastri, but that's a stain we cannot rub off our podcast
I've been scarred multiple ways.
Now you've scarred us.
Yeah. I do my bit for the society.
I didn't sign up for this scarring. I did not sign up for that. But yeah, the meaning is kind of that, which is it's a sign of doom. It's a sign of impending doom that cannot be averted, cannot be ignored, cannot be avoided. It is going to happen. And in many cases, or in history at least, you have examples where people were warned of such a thing going to happen. And whether they tried to change their fate or not, it didn't seem to matter. It ultimately did happen.
It's almost like permanent.
It is like you can take it for granted. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. It's like a bygone, foregone conclusion.
What is more fascinating for me, Bogus, is whenever you speak about this historical things, right? It kind of makes me imagine that you're the only guy who was awake in your history class where everybody else slept off. Because you have so much of unnecessary knowledge of these things. It just bamboozles me.
Oh my God.
To imagine that how did this guy stay awake in all his history classes?
I did not stay awake even in a single class. All of this was out of my own interest later that I started reading.
So basically, whoever were your friends were always asleep when they were talking to you.
What?
Yeah, I mean, like you keep talking. If this is the kind of things that interest you, history bit.
Yeah.
I can only pity
No, oddly
friends.
enough, you know what? This is the first time I'm actually talking about this. I've never discussed this, or not that it's like a secret or anything, but it's just one of those small, subtle things that you sometimes notice and you just don't end up talking or discussing
Keep it
with
to
anyone.
yourself. It's like your dark secret.
I never really consciously kept it to myself also. But now that we're doing this podcast, you and I, we think about, stuff that we could talk about in a particular episode. And when I was digging up in my mental, what is that called? Palace?
The mind palace.
My mind palace.
Which in your case must be a mind hut.
The rooms. Oh, yeah,
I think yours is like a mind hut. I have like a mind palaces, but yeah, I get what you're saying. So you are trying to.
The difference between you and me, Brut, is that you have a mind palace.
Yeah.
I have a mind hut.
Yeah.
But my palace is underground. On top, above the surface, you only see the hut.
Correct. Whatever kind of floats your boat.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what floats my boat.
That's my job. I let you live that life. Right?
That's it.
So it's okay. I get it. So you were digging deep and you got to say like, hey, this is an interesting thing, which is out there, but nobody kind of like.
No. I think a lot of people are aware.
No, in the sense, but nobody talks out.
Yeah,
right?
it's
nobody voices it.
I've never come across this as a topic of discussion anywhere so far. And I find it odd, a bit curious. But that's the reason why I wanted to
dwell more about it, is it?
Yeah, like go in on this topic and see what we make of it as an episode. So
yeah,
whatever comes of it,
Yeah, I mean like.
So that's basically the meaning of the word. The writing on the wall, the phrase. Correct. The phrase is either used as a sign of impending doom that cannot be avoided, or it's also used in the revolutionary context, which is, popular revolutions that have happened throughout history. And that is where this phrase takes a more literal manifestation. It takes a more literal form in the sense that there is literally something written on the wall,
Like the obvious prediction, or is it like...
No, it's the mood of the people.
Okay.
The unheard voice, the silent majority, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately it ends up manifesting itself on a wall as a sign of protest or something. I will get into that.
Okay.
But
we have time for that.
Oh yeah, these are the two contexts that at least I know of this word, this phrase,
right,
being used as commonly. And if you want to look at the origins of where this phrase started, I'm not really sure if we have the right story, but according to the internet, of course,
the Bible.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a biblical story.
Oh, seriously? I was referring to the internet as a Bible, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, synchronicity. So it's actually a biblical story of this great king. Okay,
like any other biblical story, it starts with the great king.
Yeah, except this guy is like.
He's not that great a king. Like
he's not the OG. He's not the original gangster. Yeah.
Okay.
Of Babylon.
Okay.
So there was another guy, his father, who was the actual OG of Babylon.
Yeah.
This guy came after him.
The boss man.
Yeah. And so he's kind of living under his shadow a little bit.
Living on past glory kind of a king, is it?
Yeah, but also he has his own he is the king, basically.
Right.
He's the boss man. So the story goes that after the first temple was raided, the temple of Solomon, the first temple. So
by this king or some other king?
By this king.
Okay. Oh, this guy basically went and raided here.
Yeah. The temple of Solomon, which is in Jerusalem.
Okay.
So which is like the Holy of Holies for the Jews. So after this king supposedly raided the first temple of Solomon, he was arranging a big feast in celebration. And so he had a lot of people invited to that. And sometimes to show your power and clout, in history, how they used to invite their neighboring kingdoms and rivals, and etc. as well. And at this mega feast, this king saw a vision right in front of him that he just saw a hand appear and scribble something on the wall.
See? Yeah, they always scribble.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Vandalism.
Exactly.
Graffiti.
Yeah.
So he saw this hand appear and scribble 3 words on the wall, but he had no clue what those meant because they were written in ancient Aramaic language. And so he had no clue, and he sent out word that anyone who comes and deciphers this for me, I'll shower you with wealth and blah, blah, blah.
You name it.
Yeah, you name it. I'm the king.
Yeah.
So he sends that word out. No one comes along. Then his wife, the queen, suggests that why don't you call Daniel? Now, Daniel is a character.
The James Bond.
No. No. Daniel is one of the characters who he has his name as the chapter and verse in the Old Testament, like one of the guys, like Mark chapter 5.
Yeah.
So Daniel is one of those.
Oh, okay.
Like there's Daniel chapter 5, verse 2, all that stuff. So Daniel comes along, he sees those words, and the king says the same thing, the same offer. Listen, you translate this, you got everything you want. And then Daniel just rejects the offer, says, you don't give me anything. I don't want anything for this. I will still translate this for you.
Yeah.
But you should be able to digest it and you should be able to take it.
Right.
What this is saying.
Oh, so he already got what the meaning writing is.
Yeah, he saw it and he knew.
Okay.
And he said, I will tell it to you for free.
Yeah.
But you got to have the balls to take it.
Got it.
He's like, okay, fine, shoot. So this guy says the first word means that even though your father who was arrogant and God struck him down, this is the Tower of Babel story.
Right.
So this is that king
who
built the Tower of. So even though God struck your father down in his arrogance, your father at least accepted and understood his place and submitted in the end. You are not that type. You still are arrogant. You still are flawed.
Yeah.
That is the first word. Yeah. That is the first word. The second word says, God has taken the balance of your worth or the balance of you.
The karma.
Yeah. And has ultimately in the end found you to be wanting. That's the second word.
Got it.
And the third word in Aramaic meant your end is pretty much
decided.
It's on its way. You're not going to be around for very long.
Mm-hmm.
You're done. And there's no changing it, basically. And so...
Which language was this written?
Aramaic. Yeah.
I don't even know where it belongs.
Actually, even I don't know. But I think Sumeria, Babylon, that Middle Eastern, that block, Mesopotamia, Sumeria, Babylon, Assyria, which is Syria now.
Okay.
Like that stretch.
Okay.
Somewhere in that, one of the older languages was Aramaic.
Okay.
So he says, these are the three words. Now you deal with it, basically. And our man checks out. So the king actually takes... oh no, he doesn't check out. Daniel says this, and the king takes Daniel's words very seriously. And that night itself, he declares that Daniel will become the third emperor of his kingdom.
What happened? Who is the second emperor?
I don't know. The story doesn't mention that.
Okay.
So
what? Doesn't even make sense.
It sounds like the king said that you will share a part of the kingdom.
Oh,
with
okay,
me.
like that.
Like
okay.
I'll give you.
I'll divide the kingdom into 3 parts.
And I'll give you a part.
Oh,
and this king was doing that to curry the favor of God.
Mm-hmm.
He thought that Daniel is God's chosen whatever, one of God's chosen people. So if I treat him well, then maybe I'll be able to change my fate.
Right.
So he makes that offer to Daniel, and that very night he's assassinated by his rival. Oh, sorry. The second thing, by the way, that God says to this guy is that your kingdom is soon going to be divided into Pleiades, which is a nearby neighboring area, and Persia.
Okay.
So what is your kingdom today is going to be split between these two.
Okay.
And so that very night, after he makes that offer to Daniel, this guy is assassinated, and his kingdom gets split. Persia and Medes the other way. So this is where that story comes from. The writing on the wall.
God. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's first of all, that escalated really fast. For the
seriously.
king. I mean, overnight. That's some really...
Imagine, right? Getting prophecy.
Yeah.
And not even like 7 days.
Yeah.
Not even like 1 year.
Yeah. No theatrics.
Yeah.
It's just like John Wick kind of stuff. Like pure business.
Like, why did you have to prophesize in the first place?
Just do it.
Just be done with it.
Yeah, get it done.
Yeah.
But that's the interesting story. So that's where the whole concept of writing on the wall came, is it?
The phrase, yeah.
Okay. So that was the first time it was ever mentioned.
According to the internet.
Or was it like from this instance... writing on the wall got its meaning.
Yeah, from this instance, it got its meaning and its usage.
Oh, got it.
In the revolutionary sense, at least. Or no, in the sense of impending doom kind of thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
That was a boring story, Bogus, to start off with.
Really?
Yeah. I never had any interest for history. This particular story actually assured me that it's not a very interesting story.
Right.
And why I don't have any, affinity towards history. But having said that,
yeah,
I have something to put on the table.
Shoot.
As ThyGap podcast, we always give people something to ponder about.
Also laugh about. Let's not forget we are a comedy podcast.
Don't state the obvious.
Yes.
Okay, and don't correct my sentences. Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Now, okay, so basically what my question is what is the takeaway, for a person
right,
who understands this concept,
Right.
I mean, just to give you an example, for instance, phrases always give you something to look forward for, right? Like fortune favors the brave is a phrase that is there. God knows where it came from, whatever.
Yeah.
But it kind of gives you a life lesson kind of a thing, right? It's like you got to take risks so that if you want to really win in your journey or you want to succeed in your journey.
True.
Right? So there is a certain practicality of that phrase, which kind of makes sense, and it is more... it becomes more colloquial usage, right? Like anybody can implement that in their day-to-day life and say like, hey, this part of the day, I'm going to kind of be a little more bold about my actions.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Don't okay me.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm getting
it. So when somebody says, hey, writing on the wall is a very serious issue, man, right? Then what am I supposed to get out of it? Like, am I supposed to like look out for what is the writing on the wall for me? Or is there another way, a metaphoric sense of how do you take it, or how do you keep an ear to the ground about it, or stuff like that? I mean, like, I'm genuinely lost there.
No, I mean,
and I need.
There's a very good reason, I think, because up until
that
this
I'm
point,
genuinely lost.
Yeah,
or like,
yeah, because up until this point, I only thought of it in the sense that, oh, this is a phenomenon that I was always curious about or interested about, but I never thought of it the way that you put it, which is, even if you explain it to someone, like how we went into the meaning of it, now what? Like,
okay, I got it.
Yeah,
it's like A for apple.
Right.
Apple is a fruit.
Right.
Beautiful. Like, it's the most inconsequential information to me.
Yeah.
Until and unless I actually eat an apple and I want to ask for an apple.
Right.
So,
yeah, the question is, what is the point of even talking about this? I think that is the key question that we can sort of unpack now, which is what I think the most fascinating thing about this phenomenon is that in the impending doom sense, it's a pattern which has repeated through history, multiple instances, and there are a few examples that we will go into. But in the other sense, the revolutionary sense, where it's literal writing on the wall, that also has repeated through history. And for me, anything that we seem to repeat when there's a pattern, it kind of piques my interest. Yeah. It intrigues. I get very intrigued by that because it's saying something about us that maybe we are not paying as close attention to as we should.
But is it like an action that is supposed to be done, or is it like a warning that is supposed to be taken? Like, in what context do you kind of look at it?
Yeah.
Like, am I supposed to be the guy who writes it on the wall?
Yeah.
Or am I supposed to be the guy who reads it off the wall for somebody who's written it and kind of deduct that, oh, this is where things are going to go towards, so I better be, careful or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. It's a smart question. I don't have the answer.
Fuck, bro, you're killing it with the questions.
Oh, I know, bro.
No, really, honestly, these are amazing questions, actually, because it's forcing me to
Episode 20 of 2020, I told you we are leading to disaster. When I start asking smart questions, that's the writing on the wall.
Oh my God, this is the writing on the wall, yeah. That's it, guys. You can't have a better sign or clearer sign of the apocalypse that is upon us.
Yeah.
Brut is asking smart questions.
Yeah.
No, but coming back to that, I think the answer is both, and it is situational, which is depending on which situation you find yourself in, you're either the one writing on the wall, or you're the one who is looking at the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
It is directed at you.
Exactly.
And in future, Brut, if you become a big powerful guy,
Yeah.
you will be on the other end, receiving end of it.
Where I'm reading.
You're reading the writing on the wall.
True that.
So what I mean by that is, when you look at it as the warning or the impending sense of doom kind of thing, that is where you are at the receiving end of it. You see these warning signs from the universe. In some way or the other, they show up in front of you. But either you're too full of yourself,
or you're blind.
Or you're blind, willfully blind to what is right under your nose, and you don't pick up the signs and you just walk to your doom.
Because the paradox of the catch-22 about this is, right? Say there is a writing on the wall for you.
Right.
It essentially tells you only one thing, right? Which is, dude, it's now or it's a matter of tomorrow or day after.
This is where it's going,
right? This is your end is near, essentially, and you can't do anything to like avert it or this thing, but it's just like a customary warning to you, cautionary warning to you that do whatever you want because it's a matter of time before your chapter is closed. So that's all you can get out of it. So there's not much you can do when you are on the receiving end. Correct?
No, actually, it's not always about your doom in the sense, not your end, but it could be a major loss. It could be like a major setback, like something that you were really banking on. But the way you were behaving, the way you were acting, if that was leading you towards a path of failure, and if there are warning signs that pop up and you ignore them, then
it's like what happened to Bruce Almighty. Have you seen that movie Bruce Almighty where he's driving in the night just before he meets God in the car crash? Like he keeps seeing this, don't do it, danger or all that things. Right?
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Now that is clear. So at least we know that you have to, it's almost like keeping an ear to the ground,
Yeah, eyes open.
You keep your eyes open, be on your feet, whatever. All that things kind of compound to writing on the wall, right? So that is clear. Now the other part of the question, if you have to write on the wall, why do you have to write on the wall? So what will push you to the point where, you have actually taken the ownership of being the one to write on the wall? Because I'm assuming whoever writes on the wall doesn't get any credit technically.
No.
Right?
No.
Like it's always in anonymity most of the time. So how do you know that you are the one who's supposed to write? How do you know you are the chosen one? How do you know you are the one?
I feel that it is such a moment of extreme humility and selflessness that you don't even bother that you get the credit for doing something like that. All you care about is that it has some effect, or you're just rebelling against your own powerlessness.
But if it is for a cause, it makes sense.
Yeah, so let me set the context, okay? So in this literal sense, the revolutionary context, how it works is, usually there is a tyranny or an oppressor or some kind of a dictator. That's how it happened in the past.
Right.
And if the common man is trying to rise up against this power, it is always not an easy task. It is an extremely uphill task for a common man to unite with other people and then overtake or overpower the power structure, right?
Correct.
So,
or break the wheel.
Yeah. And so when they're in that situation, there's always that one spark which lights the fire. The mutiny of 1857. One spark that just kick-started everything.
Right. As if I know what happened in 1857.
Mangal Pandey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Say it like that.
Yeah. Mangal Pandey incident.
Because 1857, a lot of things happened across the world.
Oh, wow. Your grandfather was born?
Yeah. My great-grandfather he took his first walk in the park. So, a lot of historical moments.
Got it. Apologies for confusing your
It's okay. Yeah.
rich legacy family history, Brut. But kind of, again, you threw me off track. What was I saying?
You said like 1857 mutiny. You need is a spark.
Yeah, all you need is a spark. That's how it has always worked.
Right.
And so what's happening in that moment is people or the common man feels powerless against this power structure, and they are being suppressed by this power structure, and they have no place to vent out their frustration, vent out their true emotion, like unfiltered, the peace of their mind.
Right.
And so they exercise their power in this way, which is they just go scribble it on a wall.
Now the problem, let me be the devil's advocate.
Sure.
In today's day and age,
yeah,
that seems to be like a power which can be easily misused. For me, it is like the borderline concept of freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm.
I for one, subjectively think the concept of freedom of speech is extremely misunderstood.
Yeah.
Right. It kind of creates a lot of polarization in ideas, or how the other person should take it, or so many things. It has too many variables to it.
There's also quite a lot of gray area.
Right? Legally, if you go to see also, it's a simple meaning, yes. But it's a much difficult or a much complex thing in a practical sense.
Exactly.
Right?
The application is
very complex. So you really don't know as to how do you exercise that power. They say that you have that power of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So go for it, leverage it.
Yeah.
And every time somebody tries to leverage it, right, they get like a huge backlash. Like, just because you have freedom of speech, you can't just say everything and anything you want. Because if that is the case, or if anybody says that, if there is certain oppression, or if you go to the point of helplessness, or there is no other option for you, then you got to take up the ownership, take that accountability, and put the writing on the wall. Okay?
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If I've gotten it wrong.
Slightly, because I didn't finish what I was saying. I think if you just let me finish, I think it could, like, the pieces will fall in place.
Okay.
Which is, someone or the other feels pushed to a point where they feel compelled to express themselves.
Got it.
In that way.
Right.
And it's not very different from the compulsion that the cave painters felt to draw wild animals, to paint wild animals on cave walls. It's like there was no reason for them to express themselves artistically in that way. But there's a lot of examples. There's caves in France, in Bhopal, there's Bhimbetka caves, where you find all of these drawings,
Yeah, but were they warnings of doom?
No, those were not warnings of doom.
So it doesn't fit the bill.
I'm just talking about the feeling of the compulsion, that you feel like you need to do it.
Okay.
And what happens is, when one person takes that initiative and puts their heart out in that way, at least what's happened in the past, is that tends to have like this domino effect, where either other people who see that, depends on how potent the words are, of course. If the words are really potent and powerful, then the other common people that read it also get inspired. And then there's a movement that starts because of that. The other flip side of it is, when the oppressor or the tyrant comes across this, he does not know who to punish. Because it's completely anonymous. No one's taking responsibility for it. So the sentiment has been shared. Someone's calling him a dickhead out in the open, but he does not know who did it. And he cannot punish anyone. So there is a moment where the power dynamic is shifted. The powerless now have some amount of power over the oppressor, where the oppressor is kind of powerless in the sense that they've already said their piece, but now I don't know who to punish. I don't know who said it.
But that is vandalism too.
It is. But in a revolution, that happens.
Still can't. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, continue.
Yeah. So what I was saying was, this is where in history also it has played out this way, where there are examples of impending doom, where you see time and again people ignoring warnings and walking to their either destruction or a major setback. Or you have other examples where revolutions were created and movements were formed because that one person with no expectation of outcome or no expectation of reward or punishment, nothing, just for the pure sake of expression, exercises their power to express exactly what they feel in their heart. And because that is so true and so raw, it catches like wildfire with other people, and they identify with it and they relate with it. It would have been extremely hard possibly for that person to call everyone and tell them, that in those cases, usually the mob kills you.
Yeah.
But if you write it on the wall, even they don't know who wrote it. So they'll just be purely reacting to the emotion itself. And it has a lot of power because of that. And I think in this way, this is the most closest to memes that we see today, because memes also, they're so powerful, and governments are trying to crack down on memes. UK has tried it. US has tried it. India will try it. When the memes get dank enough.
I think memes are being...
Oh no, India has already done it, I think. So a few people have gotten into trouble.
Yeah, more than memes, I think those newspaper illustrations, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Those ones which kind of took a dig on the incompetence of governments or systems.
Yeah.
When anybody who took a dig on the incompetence part, I think they were always kind of silenced.
Yeah, and also certain governments who are more prickly.
Yeah.
We know those governments. Yeah. Certain state governments.
They're well aware of themselves.
Yeah, and in the recent past, there have been examples where I think people have gotten into trouble just for sharing memes, and they were kind of reverse tracked as to where that meme came from, and then catch the guy.
Yeah.
So why that reaction? I think because it has that power. Because this person, memes actually, the culture of memetics.
Yeah.
Unspoken culture is you should never take credit for it. You create a meme you want to create, but you should never put your name, your logo, nothing. You should just share it with the internet, and you should let it have a life of its own.
But how will you share it with the internet without you having your, it's easy to track.
Technical know-how. No, there is a way you can scramble.
Okay.
You can encrypt.
Okay. So you have to learn a lot more stuff, guys.
It's not that a lot as well.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to draw a parallel between.
No, I get it. And that's exactly where I was going to, right? As in how do you exercise that power? Because there is no ceiling to the effect of this act, right?
Yeah.
Like you really don't know to what extent it goes.
Yeah.
You basically are telling, writing on the wall back in the day was the form of viral information, right?
Yeah.
Information spreading virally.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody, like the whole town goes to that one wall and like, what is this written?
Yeah.
So today, the virality of information has its own nature, right? It has its own behavior. And nobody at least the common man doesn't seem to understand how this virality comes into the picture.
Yeah.
Nobody can predict it. Nobody can like structure it or like plan it. I mean, everybody talks about, you can put in so much of money, market it, and then things might go viral. But no, that has a shelf life. Whatever goes viral organically, the say-so is the stuff that goes the most viral is generally the stuff which is genuinely organic, right?
Yeah.
So nobody quite knows the potential of this particular tool, right? Or the nature of how it grows or where it spreads.
Or even the danger.
Because, consequences.
Yeah, sometimes
nobody knows the consequences.
It could be a revolution, it could be a riot.
Correct. So my question or my whole, debate surrounds around that point as to who will write on the wall. Why should he write on the wall? And how will he know, or that individual know, that he's the one who's supposed to write on the wall? Right? And that is like, that's where my whole, the buck stops for me there, because when everybody starts believing that, hey, I'm the chosen one who's supposed to write on the wall.
Right.
And with the different avenues that we have today,
right,
to like put out an anonymous random statement saying that whatever, like Ganguly ye hai, or say Shah Rukh Khan ye hai, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? The value of the
Shah Rukh Khan ye hai was a writing on the wall.
Maybe.
Funny enough.
Yeah. So the value of that particular act gets diluted, right?
True.
And that is a problem that we face today, that a lot of genuine things which need the deserved concern go lost because there's so much so many other things that are being written about or being spoken about.
Yeah.
Right? Where when the actual thing hits you, you really don't know how to address that.
Yeah.
Right? And that's because of this overexposure to absolutely random things, which are given unnecessary importance.
Yeah.
Right? Some celebrities' dog like went to the vet, and that's like a very important news.
Right.
And you're like, and unfortunately, you are forced to give it the equal importance, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Right? You go out and say, like, do you know what nonsense came out on the news? This is the nonsense. And suddenly we are talking about it for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And then there is a genuine news that follows it. Say, like, 5 farmers died. And you don't seem to bother about it because you've invested that 20 minutes in something which is nonsense.
Yep.
So how do you solve that problem? I mean, I think that's where the biggest problem is in identifying the writings on the wall today, because you don't know which one to like really. Where do you keep your eyes open? What do you put your eyes on? You're seeing the depth in that question, Bogus?
I think it's asking a question that needs an answer for a different episode, probably, because it's
so we have suddenly figured out there are more episodes that we can like.
No, because this question is something different. It is not about the writing on the wall itself. It is more about, there is so much writing now. How do you know like which to focus on? That's what you're asking.
Which is the actual OG?
Yeah, but
the OGs of.
That's where and this is going back to what you said.
No, but this is the second part of the question.
Yeah, but this is going back to what you said. That's where the power comes, because the power, some of the power lies in the unpredictability of it. The virality, like you said, cannot be predicted. Human consciousness, like the common consciousness, cannot be predicted. We can never say what will suddenly become viral and what cannot become viral. No matter how many people try to study it as they are doing it now, you will not be able to unless you, I guess, look at it more from a human or a common consciousness kind of an angle.
Yeah, but that's too complicated for
it's too complicated. Right? It is too unpredictable. It is too abstract.
Yeah.
Because each and every person by themselves is such a variable. Now you get all these people together.
Right.
You're dealing with variables beyond your scope of, calculation or imagination.
Got it.
Is what I feel. And that's the reason why it becomes so tough to predict it.
But could you kind of enlighten us with did you have any personal experiences of writing on the wall? Like did you come across something where, so that I can probably relate to it, because I currently don't my like I said, my relation to writing on the wall was Ravi Shastri,
right,
which leads me to nowhere. Right, but you know what I mean. Can you share something?
We do have a few examples, actually, very interesting. So one personal story that I remember was the first time I went to Dharamshala in Himachal, and the first time I visited this Tibetan museum, which chronicled the history of Tibet, pictures for everything, and what happened during the invasion of Tibet, how the Dalai Lama escaped the invasion and basically came to India with the help of a few of the Tibetan militia.
Right.
All of that story was in the museum, and it's a very hard-hitting experience, that museum. And I was just thinking, you also get to watch a movie, a documentary, where you see how it was in Tibetans, the invasion, some of the clips that were leaked out of the invasion, etc. So it is a very hard-hitting documentary. After that, I came out, I grabbed a snack, and I was just walking around Dharamshala casually, just to see the place. And I was walking by this house where it was a normal independent house. The garage shutter was shut. It was rolled down.
Okay.
And the entire shutter, right? It was a painting. Big, blocky words. Free Tibet.
Whoa.
That's it. And I just walked past it. I stopped for a bit. I took a picture because it immediately reminded me of the writing of the wall. And what I noticed in Dharamshala was how the Tibetan refugees were consciously working and putting efforts to keep their culture alive. And they have their own a version of who the next Dalai Lama should be.
Right.
And China has a puppet in place where they say that guy should be the next Dalai Lama. These people are opposed to it, obviously. So when I think about that instance where I saw Free Tibet in such big letters, and now I think about what's going on in the world, where the situation we are in with China, the geopolitical situation that's going around, where Taiwan is getting more and more play in the international politics, more and more recognition by countries who never recognized them. Unfortunately, India has still not officially recognized Taiwan as a country. But I just feel that it is going in that direction now. And China, they can't do anything to stop it.
I mean, this is this is a warning for...
It has been for a while. Especially the Tibetan soldiers that helped in conquering those strategic heights.
Yeah.
That just is the icing on the cake. It's like a story. Like, it's an amazing plot point that you would have weaved into an epic story.
Right.
Where the Tibetans who came to India as refugees volunteered to be in the army. And there has been generations of them fighting,
participating.
Yeah, helping out, fighting with the Indian army and lending their expertise in high altitude situations where everyone finds it extremely tough.
Right.
But these guys are champs.
Right. Because they're genetically engineered for those kind of...
Yeah, it's just evolution.
Terrains.
Yeah. And these kind of things coming back and as a serving to China, kind of like an owning China kind of thing.
Right.
You just feel the writing is on the wall. It's not going to be that long that the matter of Tibet is going to be taken up by everyone. It is already being mentioned a little bit, but it could be a lot more.
It's just catching fire.
It is catching fire for sure.
Right.
And thank God, finally. The other part of the question, which is how does someone identify, the writing on the wall or sign of things to come, etc.
Yeah.
It is extremely difficult without training or improving your own intuition first. And how do you improve your intuition? Maybe episode 21 of ThyGap podcast is how we go into how you improve your intuition.
This is what happens, guys. Let me speak to the audience directly.
Please.
Guys, if you want to learn the art of plugging in, this is how you do it. The whole build-up, right?
Smooth as butter.
Smooth criminal, guys. Smooth criminal. That's a very smooth plugin. And for all you guys who are the upcoming artists who want to be a part of this podcast as the third wheel, that's how we call them.
Yeah.
This is how we would plug you in.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Very smooth.
Sometimes the audience would not even know that you're here, but still you're here.
Right. That is the ThyGap experience, But again, I lost track of what we were talking about before.
No, you were saying...
Oh, yeah, intuition.
Intuition, yeah.
How
do you identify a writing on the wall?
Yeah, without developing a strong sense of intuition, it's extremely tough to read the signs or observe patterns that are not obviously related on the surface, but if you think about it, you begin to see the connecting threads. So let's put that one aside because it needs intuition to actually see the writing on the wall. But if you look at the other sense, where in the other context where you are the one doing the writing, in that situation, I don't think, like you said, it is not like, am I the chosen one to write this? There's no question or point of a chosen one at all. There is no exalted position. It is done in complete honesty and complete humility almost, with no expectation of anything to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're just doing it because you feel it strongly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you feel like you have to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you're putting it out there. Now, what happens after that is completely out of your control. The universe kind of deals with it in its own way.
All you have to do is light the match.
All you have to do is provide the spark, yeah.
Got it. Got it. That I can do a lot. I can light a lot of matches.
Yeah, if there's a follow-up question, how do I know if I should be the guy? If you don't feel it from inside you, like if you don't feel compelled,
then don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Because we all have our roles. Even in a revolution, there's always leaders and there's always followers. There's always instigators and there's always people that tag
provocators.
Yeah, and provocators also. There's also those kind of people. So we all have our roles to play. So you figure out what kind of a person you are. And how do you figure out what kind of a person you are? Measure of Man, a 2-part special that we did as in our ThyGap podcast. Check out those 2 episodes. That's how you figure yourself out.
All in all, it's a very complicated thing. It's not as simple as it sounds.
Yeah.
Writing on the wall is probably, it's for the trained eye, as you maybe you can say that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There was an interesting story that I once heard. The Nizam of Hyderabad was, I don't know if a lot of people know, he was essentially like an accountant for Mughals who was responsible for the territory of Deccan.
You mean before he became the Nizam?
Before he became like the Nizam. Right? But he was always sought after as one of the smartest guys in
administrator
in the Mughal ministry. So the story goes that as he was out in one of his hunting trips or something like that, and he comes across this sadhu who was going around begging alms, and he goes to Nizam and he's like, I want to, if you can give me some alms. So Nizam invited into his, so Nizam is known for his hospitality, right? He never likes a guest to be turned down or whatever. So he invites the sadhu to his banquet or something like that, and the sadhu refuses, no, I can't accept that because of my penance or whatever.
Right.
So what happens is, finally the sadhu cuts a deal with Nizam.
Okay.
And he says okay, how much ever you eat, let's eat together, and whatever you eat is what I'll eat. And he was like, okay, fair enough. So what happens is they end up eating 7 chapatis, right? The Nizam eats 7 chapatis and he's like, that's it, I can't eat anymore. And the sadhu obliges and he's like, okay, fine, I'll stop eating too. Now, in a return for this favor of you giving me this food, what I can prophesize what happens to your family with my knowledge and my powers or whatever.
Okay.
So what the sadhu told was that the Nizam family will reach the pinnacle of prosperity, right? In wealth, in
power, influence.
Everything.
Yeah.
Right? You name it, they'll get it.
Yeah.
But that's only for 7 generations. So for 7 generations, your family will prosper.
Because of the 7 rotis?
7 rotis that he ate, right? So it's some kind of, I mean, that part is a little gray. I don't really remember correctly as to whether that was an offer to Nizam or whether that was a prophecy. But the story goes that he prophesies that for 7 generations, your family will prosper, and that's that, right? After that, you will go back to rags. So that is how your family will prosper and blah, blah, blah. So Nizam was like, great, he's 7 generations is a long time. Right. So he's like, thanks a lot for telling this and all, but whatever, I'm doing this out of, my pleasure.
Right.
For my pleasure or whatever. So no issues. And it so happens, if you look at it, the last famous Nizam, the Osman Ali Khan, was the guy who actually held the title of Nizam. After that, they the Hyderabad state was taken over by the Indian government and all that. And that was the last Nizam that was there. And also what the sadhu told was that it will be, the downfall also will be because of his own men or his own people. Rather.
Okay.
And that's how it actually happened. His own son, right, who went to Australia to study and all that, got married to an Australian girl, and he came back and she cheated him out of all the money. She saw that this guy is like a millionaire, a billionaire, right? So she took whatever she can, which was enough for I don't know how many generations for her. And then she left. And both the sons were kind of never really gotten into the position of their father, right?
The status
or the power that they had, all that, they didn't experience that for some reason or the other.
Right.
So I don't know if this comes under the writing on the wall, which happened 7 generations back.
Yeah.
But it was more like a prophecy that they will rule for 7 generations, and after that, they might not have the same kind of they might not experience the same kind of luxury and power and prosperity. It's I don't know if it still is I don't know the credibility of the story.
Okay.
But this is a story that I've heard.
Okay, let's just go with it as a story.
Yeah, it's a story. It's a story. Guys.
Yeah, we're not claiming to be experts or anything. But if you look at it as a story, right? Even in this, there's a subtlety that I find very fascinating, which is what prompted the sadhu in the first place to make that kind of an offer that we both will eat together.
Yeah.
One, not just that, how much ever you eat, I will eat.
Right.
That I find even more peculiar.
Correct.
And we could go hours and hours if we try to break into that.
Right,
But I just wanted to say that also I find very interesting.
Yeah.
But where I find writing on the wall relating to the story is that the sadhu just said his piece and walked.
Yeah.
You know?
He didn't bother to cross-verify his prophecy.
Yeah,
he didn't
he
wait
just
there.
said what he had to say
Yeah.
and he exited the frame.
Yeah.
Now this Nizam is left with this prophecy.
Yeah.
He must have seen in the first generation or the generation after him, he must have seen the power and the prosperity and all
Coming
that come
into
in.
picture. Yeah.
And second generation and the third generation. And this story must have passed in their family tradition.
Yeah.
Okay, this happened to our
Yeah.
forefather. And imagine the power or the weight of that prophecy that would have had on this family. Generation after generation, they see it coming like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, like
You
to
know?
think about it, imagine the kind of pressure for the last,
For the last generation.
the seventh generation
Yeah.
rather, to face the inevitable.
Where you already were given this information
Yeah,
that this is the end now,
yeah,
and you're not able to do anything to change it. Yeah, I think it's a great story because it shows the effect or the power of the prophecy or the words or the writing on the wall,
right.
where the person who said those words literally had there was no effect on him. He did nothing. He just said it and he left.
There is no ledger for him. There is no profit or loss for him.
He probably walked off and lived and died normal.
On his own terms or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
His own, this thing. Yeah.
But look at what he said. Look at the effect it ended up having on 6-7 generations of a family. That's crazy. It reminds me of another example, that I found very interesting from history. Julius Caesar, right?
I've met him a couple of times. Not really close.
Tall guy, thin, pointy nose.
Yeah, like
Very
wears
arrogant.
leaves on his head.
Oh yeah, leaves on his head, very arrogant. Freaky fashion sense.
Freaky fashions. Never changed his clothes.
Yeah.
Same old blanket.
Looked like he was wearing a skirt or something.
Yeah, and a blanket for a top. Very weird.
Yeah. But Julius Caesar, of course, this was at the peak of his powers of the Roman Empire under Caesar. And this was the time surrounding when he was about to be assassinated. Okay. So I read a historian's account of what was going on in Rome at that point of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I can't recall who this historian was, but this is what it described basically. So take it with a pinch of salt. Okay? I don't know who it was. I don't know how true it is, but this
like
is a
most
story.
of the information we
Just,
reveal.
Yeah, look at it as a story.
Don't worry about
Let's
the source.
not get too hung up about,
Like, how credible is this? Is this
yeah.
authentic? No. That's not where you have to focus.
Take the example for your benefit.
Read our lips.
That's it. So how he describes it as was, first of all, we already know the famous account of Caesar's wife getting a premonition
That he would
be killed.
Yeah.
So this was the night before he was about to meet his people, Brutus and all those guys.
Brutus and co.
And so the night
If it was a Marwadi, I'm sorry. If it was a Marwadi, if Brutus was a Marwadi, it would have been Brutus and Sons. And, the rest would follow.
Yeah. But
Yeah. It was Brutus and co.
Brutus and
Got it.
So the night before, his wife gets a dream where she basically sees her husband
Yeah.
being killed, betrayed. And so the next morning, she implores him, she begs him, don't go.
Yeah.
And she tells him also, I got a dream. You're going to die.
She heard our episode of dreams.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
That's how she knew that she had to take that dream seriously.
Time is like a circle, bro. It's like a loop.
Yeah,
Which we will cover in our future episode on time on ThyGap podcast. Stay tuned, guys. But jokes apart, she seriously begged him not to go.
Mm-hmm.
And think about it, okay? You're Julius Caesar. Okay, you're the head of Rome.
Yeah.
At the peak of its empire.
Yeah.
If you call up your friends and say, guys, we're not hanging out tonight.
Yeah.
Or today. Let's take a rain check.
Right.
And then you could have your spies meanwhile investigate, was there something to it?
Yeah. What were these guys doing?
Yeah.
Were they disappointed when I said this?
Yeah. No, but it hardly takes me anything to postpone an office meeting that I have to attend. I just have to call and say, guys, I'm not feeling well.
If Julius Caesar was an Indian,
yeah,
like he would have been assassinated 7, 8, 10 years later, maybe.
Yeah. Can I please take leave? So
sorry, guys, can't make it today.
So basically, he is the emperor.
Yeah.
He can say whenever the meeting is supposed to happen.
And he's not just any emperor, right? He's like the emperor of the Rome.
The Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And if only for a fraction of a second, if you could have listened to his wife, for whatever reason, let's just say, okay, you need to have some humility for that, right? Like maybe I don't know everything, even though I'm the emperor.
Yeah.
This lady is telling me she's getting some crazy vibes.
Right.
So why don't I investigate? What do I have to lose?
Yeah. One day. It's a matter of a day.
It's a matter of a day.
Yeah. Rome wasn't built in a day. So
exactly.
He should have taken his own advice.
His own example, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, he's the emperor. He is Julius Caesar. So
he's posh.
It's like, shut up, woman.
Yeah.
And he goes to the meeting where obviously Brutus and friends all take turns introducing him to their knives.
Correct.
So that was one fascinating story where there was a warning.
Yeah.
It cost him nothing to change things.
Right.
Out of arrogance, out of his own whatever, he is Julius Caesar,
right.
blah, he went and got himself killed. But the other aspect, which I did not know that the historian talks about, is the night before, where his wife was dreaming that.
Right.
Just look at this synchronicity, okay? The same time, the night before, his wife is dreaming about her husband getting killed. In the city, the historian describes that the atmosphere was almost electric.
Yeah.
You could feel there was some kind of a tension in the air. Because at that point of time, even though Julius Caesar was at his peak of his power, he was also kind of showing signs of what other people around him interpreted to be signs of weakness. Okay, and that started coming probably during the later years of his career as an emperor.
Mm-hmm.
But they construed whatever he was doing at that point of time, they construed that, okay, this guy is maybe not the God Caesar that we knew of.
Yeah, he's not the immortal.
We are beginning to see some mortal signs here.
Right.
And that gave them the confidence to even think of doing something. Because for people at that time in Rome, forget about some other far off land.
Town or whatever.
Yeah, where people are plotting against Caesar. No, they are plotting against Caesar in Rome.
Under his own nose.
Under his own big ass nose.
Yeah.
Inconceivable for people to do that.
Yeah.
Caesar was so powerful, but these guys were plotting. And in the city, there was almost like a mad electric atmosphere where it felt like a riot was about to break out. There were miscreants running around, yelling abuses at Caesar, which again was unheard of during that point of time.
Yeah.
No one could dare to do that openly.
Yeah.
That was going on. And literally there were writings on the wall. Like people scribbled abuses at Caesar. Also saying, Caesar is done. Caesar is no more.
Yeah.
That's it. This is the end of Caesar. Stuff like that.
Right.
If only he could have just waited, and his spies next day could have probably, by next evening, they could have told him, Ki, sir, they are all scribbling on the walls, sir, and all.
Sir, if you look just under our building, there are 4 writings. But I what I get out of it is 2 things that Caesar did a mistake.
Okay.
And if history would have been different, he would have, if would have not done those 2 mistakes. The first one obviously is always the thumb rule of a married life is listen to your wife.
Exactly.
Which we covered in our episode.
On marriage. ThyGap podcast, guys.
ThyGap podcast, man.
Where do you think you're going to go?
Yeah.
Everything is over here. All the episodes are related.
The second biggest mistake is very close to the first mistake he did, which was when his wife was listening to the Dreams episode of ThyGap podcast, He should have heard the episode of Measure of Men.
No, but he is Julius Caesar. What? He is going to listen to two guys from Hyderabad podcast.
Yeah.
Julius Caesar. Why will he listen?
Too posh he was acting.
Top. Turum.
And this is what happens if you don't listen to ThyGap podcast.
Exactly.
And share it with 20 people.
And that is the writing on the wall.
Absolutely.
For you guys.
Make sure ThyGap podcast. Subscribe.
And share. That's the writing on the wall.
With that, we wrap up the body part of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get to the main section.
The tail.
The tail part. The tail ending. Right? And that is the parcel section.
The parcel section.
The parcel section is here finally, the one which you're waiting for, guys. And it's going to be pretty tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more these segments that we are doing of parcel section,
right,
the tougher it is getting to suggest our picks.
Not for me. I got a whole lot more.
Yeah, that's because you were awake in your history class. So obviously,
I was not actually.
You were. Don't lie.
School was.
Anyways,
a lie.
Bogus.
Yeah.
Just stop talking when I start talking. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the parcel section.
Saying?
So the
parcel. You're saying.
So the parcel section, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you want to go first? I don't think we'll allow you to do that because we know what you do in the parcel section.
Right.
You put everybody to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go straight into my suggestion, my pick for the week. It's a movie which is, I think a lot of people haven't seen unless you spend a lot of time in star movies in your summer school or on your summer holidays. It's called Bowfinger. Have you heard Bowfinger?
Of course, Bowfinger. I think quite a lot of people in our age group might have seen this.
Yes.
But then
it's a lost gem according to me. It's a very good take about comedy of errors.
Yes.
And the beauty about the movie is they put comedy of errors in the movie itself, in the sense like it's not a genre, it's not like a background theme, but they actually enact all the comedy of errors. I don't know if I've explained it correctly.
I don't think either, but it's okay.
I'll explain it to you because you're a little slow, Bogus.
Right.
So Bowfinger is this guy played by Steve Martin.
Yes.
Steve Martin, the legend. We all know him. Who basically is this unwanted producer in the Hollywood. Right. And he's trying to make a mark in Hollywood by taking this or directing or producing this crazy movie. But nobody's really interested in him.
Right.
So finally, the movie starts with he coming across this crazy script, according to him. Like our great ex-guest has told, kick-ass script.
Yeah.
And he gets super excited about it. And he goes to all the big mainstream stars to sign them up for the movie. Right. But nobody knowing him and his reputation, nobody's interested in him.
Right.
So what he basically does is he gets a double for one superstar, right, in Hollywood, who's played by none other than Eddie Murphy, another legend, right? And he tries to shoot it around him. So he basically plants cameras, plants artists and everybody in Eddie Murphy's real life, like in the movie, and he tries to do the movie, right? So that's how it goes. So why I said that the whole concept was brilliant is when he's trying to, produce the movie without Eddie Murphy really knowing that he is in the movie.
Right.
It ends up into comedy of errors, right?
Right.
But they play out how that comedy of error happens. Generally in a movie, the comedy of error is happening without the actors knowing it, right? But here they actually know that this is kind of comedy of errors.
Okay.
Right? And Steve Martin, being Steve Martin, kills it in the movie.
Yeah.
He, the eccentric producer who has this weird delusional belief that he's a crazy producer or a movie director. It's an out and out funny movie. Everybody should check it out. It's called Bowfinger. You should find it easily on any of the content aggregating platforms, the OTT platforms. So that's my pick, Bogus.
It's been a while since I watched Bowfinger, but correct me if I'm wrong. What I remember was the actual Eddie Murphy guy who Steve Martin wanted to make the movie with in the movie, he's like a crazy, kooky kind of guy.
Yeah, he's like a typical movie star, right? Like he's
too
cocky.
superstitious
and so basically what they do is, there's another movie which of Eddie Murphy where he's a boxer. I don't know if you've seen that movie. I forgot the name of the movie. And the CIA convinces him to play as an undercover cop or undercover agent while being his boxer self. And he's like a Floyd Mayweather kind of a boxer. So here, this guy is like supremely superstitious, like you mentioned, and he's kind of cuckoo in his head. He's very kind of like, oh, he's so scared for his life, and he's that typical. He's almost very Indian, to be precise, right? He's like, oh, the black cat crossed kind. So he's that level superstitious,
right.
And he's scared of ghosts. He's scared of all these things, like the typical fears. And he's a grown-ass man who's like a multi-millionaire.
Right.
So Eddie Murphy, again, I think it was a no, like for him, I don't consider this particular role as one of the toughest roles he played, per se.
No, obviously not.
But yeah, they did their part. But Steve Martin is the guy to check out in the movies. Like really, really amazing acting.
Yeah, Bowfinger. It's a fun time. Like you wouldn't even notice time passing.
Yeah, it's a very pretty, it's a well-tempoed movie.
Yeah.
So that's my pick. Now, Bogus. No, unfortunately, I have to ask you, what is your parcel?
All right. My parcel for this episode is a 2005 movie called Kingdom of Heaven, directed by Ridley Scott.
The legend Ridley Scott.
Oh, yeah. So this movie is about the Crusades in the 12th century. As you know, during the whole Crusades, there was a certain period of time when the Christians had control of Jerusalem. And then there was a certain period of time when the Muslims had.
Right. I wasn't there, but I've heard.
Yeah. So this movie is set around the time when the Christians had control of Jerusalem.
Okay.
And the Muslims were trying to invade and conquer. Get it back.
Got it.
So from the Muslim side, the emperor, the OG emperor, on their side was Saladin.
Salahuddin or Saladin?
I think
it's Salahuddin.
It is both, actually. Some people say Saladin, some people say Salahuddin.
Got it.
And in real history as well, he's a formidable figure for his empire and his conquests, etc. And on the other side of the Christians, the main king is a guy called Baldwin the Fourth, who was born a leper. And so throughout the movie, you don't even see Baldwin's face because he's completely covered in a mask. So you don't see his skin at all because of the leprosy.
Right.
He even covers his face with a metal mask. And Baldwin is played by Edward Norton.
Oh.
Who never shows his face. Who's
I've heard of this.
Yeah, whose screen time in the whole movie, which is 3 hours almost. His screen time is 11 minutes, dude. 11 minutes, Edward Norton does not show his face, but you remember him the most from the movie. Can you believe that?
I mean, Edward Norton, I might actually believe that. Yeah,
his performance as the king, the leper king Baldwin, is just reason good enough to watch the entire movie. But basically the plot is that the Christians are in control of Jerusalem. The Muslims are trying to invade. In the Christian side as well, the Knights Templar, there are a few Knights Templar who are portrayed in a negative light because they are very bloodthirsty and greedy. That's how they are portrayed. And the lead character is just a blacksmith who doesn't know that he is actually a knight's son.
Okay.
So his father, the knight, is played by Liam Neeson.
Oh, Liam Neeson. This Ridley Scott has some crazy cast.
Who's going to say no to Ridley Scott? Seriously.
Yeah, that too.
So Liam Neeson, who plays his father, he's also a knight, but he's a good knight.
Yeah.
So he approaches Orlando Bloom and says, I'm your father. I need you to come with me to protect Jerusalem. This is not the life for you.
Yeah.
And so things happen. Orlando Bloom joins up with Liam Neeson. And then he gets the favor of Baldwin, Edward Norton, the king, because he sees this guy is mature and he's not
off his head.
Off his head. Cuckoo. Yeah. He is mature. He appreciates the value of life and all that stuff. So he makes him a count. because he's anyways a knight's son.
Right.
So he makes him a count of a small locality which is completely dry. So this guy with his engineering know-how, etc., he irrigates the land.
Oh.
He wins the favor of people. So he...
Swadesh, yeah.
Basically. So he starts gaining more and more fame among the people as a guy who's a leader.
Right.
And it so happens that Saladin is now invading Jerusalem, as on the gates of Jerusalem. And he's going to invade.
Right.
And there's nobody in Jerusalem who
can fight him off.
Like, there's no king figure.
Right.
There's no leader.
Right.
Because the previous leader was killed off by Saladin in a previous negotiation, etc. So it all falls on Balian, played by Orlando Bloom.
Okay.
Who manages the not just preparation of war within Jerusalem. He ends up knighting random people just to motivate them to fight.
Right.
The common civilians of Jerusalem. And he also does well diplomatically, in the sense that when Saladin starts the siege of Jerusalem, what he might have thought would have been an easy take.
Yeah.
It took about 10 days for them to, even the siege
knock
to
the
continue.
Gate and come in.
So they were not able to breach Jerusalem completely within 10 days. And finally he gets frustrated and he calls Edward Norton out for a negotiation. This is where this guy's character, Balian, he negotiates that you should let the people go.
Right.
I don't want killing. I don't want anything. Let whoever wants to stay in Jerusalem, let them stay in Jerusalem. But whoever wants to leave, let them peacefully leave with me. And it so happened that
everybody left.
Not everybody left, because you had to ransom your way out.
Right.
So you had to pay, basically. So whoever could pay, they were allowed to leave.
Right.
But whoever could not, they stayed back as slaves. But there was no bloodshed.
Right.
That you see usually during a war. So Jerusalem was not like ransacked.
Is this a true story, or is it like...
It is based on true events, but you have to take it with a pinch of salt, because this movie is a heavily fictionalized version.
Yeah. Ridley Scott does that a lot.
Yeah. The true part is the 10 days siege that happened and the negotiation that happened between Saladin and Balian.
Okay.
And so...
See? Again,
Balian got a lot of reputation because of that incident, because he used diplomacy to avoid bloodshed, and he placed more importance on human life.
Right.
And ultimately, Saladin ends up getting Jerusalem. He gets what he wants, but also Balian gets what he wants. Less bloodshed.
But the leprosy guy basically loses out.
He dies early on in the movie, because that was like the writing on the wall. Once you have a leprosy, right?
Yeah.
You're going to die young. So Baldwin dies young as a leper, but the cast in this movie, Edward Norton is King Baldwin, the best performance, 11 minutes in the whole movie, does not show his face.
Intense.
Orlando Bloom, the lead, he just plays the straight.
That's Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, the straight role, about as well as anyone can play a straight man.
Yeah.
Then there's Eva Green. Beautiful Eva Green, who plays Sibylla. And there's a Syrian actor called Ghassan Masood,
who played Saladin.
And he also,
it's great. I don't remember the name but I remember the character.
He does such a good job, because it's quite a challenge to play a legendary, mythical kind of emperor like Saladin. But he does a great job bringing gravitas. There's also Brendan Gleeson, who is one of my favorite actors.
There's Liam Neeson. So the cast is brilliant. Yeah.
The pacing of the movie is just about right in the director's cut. It goes for 3 hours long, but I really feel that none of the screen time was wasted.
Yeah.
It just was how the story had to be told.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful story. It's a completely fictional story. Don't think it is true, To
the T.
Yeah, to the T. But watch it as entertainment and watch it as a very well done movie and brilliantly acted. Kingdom of Heaven, guys.
That is amazing, unnecessarily long speech. Once again, bogus. But that brings us to the end. I think we have given all that we can give.
And that's the writing on the wall, bro, that this episode has got to end now.
Yep, that's what we mentioned in the beginning, that the 20th episode in the year 2020, right? You got to be careful.
Yeah. While there's a T20 championship going
on. IPL T20.
Yeah.
Synchronicity, man. But having said that, you still, with all these obstacles, our audience can still go to ThyGap podcast.
Oh, yeah. Always.
So therefore, thank you. ThyGap podcast. Subscribe.
And share. Hey, thanks for listening. You can follow this podcast on Spotify to get notified of new episodes every Thursday. We're also on Apple Podcasts for those of you who have partaken in the forbidden fruit. If you liked what you heard, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Say anything like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. A rating and a comment really helps us out. It's free, and I'm told that's a great price. But enough about us, huh? Tell us about yourself. Leave us a comment. Our Twitter is @ThyGap and we are _ThyGap on Instagram.